My name is Mark Bly, and my sister and I run a performing arts school here in Fort Wayne called the New American Conservatory. What is the school about? It's a performing arts school that specializes in ballet training. And my job as the Dean of Academics, which I try not to refer to myself as because it sort of makes my chest constrict a little bit just thinking about all of that responsibility. As the Dean of Academics, I'm heading the academic program, whereas my sister is heading the ballet program. The school is designed to allow our students to maintain a national level of competitiveness with their ballet training while they don't sacrifice their academics as they go through that process. I have to admit, if you had told me, I don't know, 2 days ago, let alone 5 years ago, that I would be here in Fort Wayne talking at TED to Northeast Indiana about my involvement with a ballet school, I would have told you that you were a little bit crazy, right? I didn't expect you to be here. And actually, Craig probably was getting nervous this week because he may not have been expecting me to be here, because not only had I not given him my speech when I was supposed to 2 weeks ago, but then I sent him an email this week and was like, oh, I'll have it to you by Wednesday. And I didn't have it to him by Wednesday, and I said I was going to show up at the meeting on Friday with all of the speakers, and I didn't show up there because I was on the phone with my sister talking about things with the school, and 2 hours and 40 minutes later I was hanging up the phone realizing that I missed that. So I'm thankful to be here, certainly. So why did I not expect to be here? Okay, so my mom is from Pittsburgh, my dad is from Pittsburgh, my entire family is from the Steel City. My dad is the only member of the family who is in Steel, and we are the only family from that family who is not living in Pittsburgh anymore. So as the steel industry moved west to cheap land and cheap water, so did we. We moved to Youngstown, Ohio, into Cleveland, into Columbus, into Fort Wayne. At one point, I had gone to 4 schools in 4 years, from 6th through 9th grade. When we moved to Fort Wayne, it was the day before my freshman year of high school. So you can imagine that as I went through high school, I was never really tied to any city, let alone Fort Wayne. By the time I graduated, I was applying to schools, and I applied to 13 different schools, and while a few of them were in Indiana, I applied to schools all over the country because I sort of wanted to use the brain that had been developed within me to like go out and see the world, right? To like experience life on the other side of the Mississippi or something like this, right? Because I'm this sheltered little, now Indiana boy. I was a little bit disappointed, quite frankly, when Michigan State offered me a scholarship to attend that I couldn't refuse. I wanted to go further than 2 hours away from home. So you can bet that when it was my last year at Michigan State, and my sister is calling me up on the phone to tell me that she is pitching her ballet students starting an academy that includes not only their ballet, but their academics. And she is hoping that I am going to be the person who steps in to handle the academic program. You can bet I was resistant. Because I wanted to get out, right? I did not want to come back to Indiana for a job. I did not want to come back to Fort Wayne for a job. I did not want to work in the same building as my sister down the hall from her, right? I mean, excuse the metaphor, but like that was like my prison, right? This is something that I wasn't looking forward to. So I was certainly resistant. My sister started the school without me. She pitched the idea to her students. She had enough of them who were serious enough, who were willing to come along, and they did. And the first year was a relative success, except for the fact that my sister had a falling out with her math and science teacher. Who did she know that taught math and science, or had the ability to at least? Her brother, me. So she calls me up on the phone between year 1 and year 2 and says, Mark, here's your opportunity again. You can come in with me, you can head the academic program. And of course I was resistant. So she found a replacement who was suitable, who also flaked on her 2 weeks before the school year started. Now this was 5 years ago, the economy was booming, it was easy to find a job, and it was tough, as a result, to find a math and science teacher who was willing to work for a non-competitive salary at a private school. My sister called me up again and said, Mark, like I need you, right? This is 2 weeks before the school year started. She said, I need you like to fulfill my dream, or to keep it going at least. I was resistant, of course, right? Because I said, well, Beth, like, look out in the country. Like, there's not a school out there that exists with this model, right? Obviously, they must not exist, right? And they must not be able to. With my science background, I know, like, you don't have to like reality, but you have to face it. And I was like, Beth, face it, right? This doesn't work, right? You tried it for a year, it didn't work, therefore it must not work. It turns out I had to face the reality, because this is my sister. This is her dream, this is my family, and my family actually got to me to where I sort of turned the corner. And I said, okay, Beth, I will bridge the gap for you for a year, I will teach and be your math and science teacher, and as I do, I will get you to next year where you will hire someone else and I will be gone and off doing things elsewhere. That was 5 years ago. So why have I continued with the school? Well, as the school was going on, it was its second year. We grew from 11 to 17 students. So we were getting bigger, but we were still small. Small enough for my sister to be the only administrator. So she administrated both over the ballet program and over the academic program. And as someone personally involved in the academic program, I was, well, also because she was my sister, I was quite willing to like step up and say, hey Beth, like this thing that you're doing, I think you can do it better for these reasons, and I think how the way you want to do it is bad for this, that, and the other reason. And apparently I did that a lot, because partway through the year, she was like, fine, you can do it better, just do it yourself. Like, okay, sure. So I started doing a lot of these tasks to where by the end of that first year, going into the second year, I was like officially the Dean of Academics, running the academic program. And I can't say that was something that I was really looking forward to doing, but it happened. Now, there was also a financial benefactor who, completely anonymous, stepped in and said, hey, you guys can move out of the building that you're currently in, you can move into this other building, I will pay the rent for you for 2 years. Now, this put a lot of responsibility on my sister and I, because we knew that after 2 years, if we did not grow, we had no ability to afford that building. So we're sitting there saying, it's time to take attention. Focus on every little thing, see where the positives are growing and foster them, and see where the inefficiencies are developing and squander them. Little by little, we tweaked and tuned the school, never pushing it in any given direction, but sort of just taking it in the positive direction that it was naturally attracted towards. Within those years, we went from 17 students to 33 students to 40 students. We were talking about an enrollment limit. And why an enrollment limit? Because we couldn't sacrifice the quality of the training that we were giving. Academically, our median standardized percentile went from 71 to 81 to 86. Ballet-wise, relatively unaware across the country of who the new American Youth Ballet was. My sister now, 2 years later, was being invited to New York City by the New York City Ballet, all expenses paid, one of 20 teachers across the country to do so, to have the opportunity to learn from their master teachers, their master teaching techniques, so that she can apply them in her studio and build dancers of the caliber that they need in New York City. Wow, quite an opportunity, right? So we have this nationally respected ballet program and this locally respected academic program, and we were building this thing. And again, like, what did it come down to? It came down to just paying attention, like really looking for where those positive things were growing and where those inefficiencies were coming around. So, right, when we were making when we were looking at these opportunities for growth, like, I have to be honest, academically, we were taking the surest route possible. And why? Because I wanted to get the heck out of there, right? And the surest way for me to get the heck out of there was to get the school to a level of establishment. Get the school to a level of establishment to where it didn't need me to help run things, to where it could sort of run on its own. And what I discovered as I was trying to get away is that I couldn't. Because herein lied sort of the second truth, as opposed to the first one, which is just paying attention. The second one was, the more you get invested, the more you value something. The blood, the sweat, the tears, the late nights, the right lens of my glasses is permanently foggy from chalk dust, right? The prices that were paid, sort of forging the school to what it became, made it impossible for me to pull myself away, or at least made it difficult. Like, we are all here at TED right now, likely because we have invested some amount of time into learning about what TED is, watching the videos online, and we valued it subsequently as a result enough to fork over $75 to have a seat here today, to be totally blown away by everything that we've seen and heard. So how then, looking back, did we get everybody invested? For the students, it was easy. For the students, it's easy. We are the only ballet academy in the country, save some school in Washington, D.C. that's associated with the Kirov Ballet in St. Petersburg, Russia. We're the only other one. So all of the dancers in the area who were very competitive sought us out. They wanted to come through the front door. And it was great from a teaching perspective because we have never had to assign homework to instill work ethic. It's there already. The students inherently want to be a part of the school. For the parents, We don't have buses. We're a private school. The parents have to drive their kids to school every day and pick them up. Our schedule changes all the time for the ballet program. My sister changes the schedule sometimes on a whim by the day because something has to get done for everything to be ready for the show, and the parents have to sort of rearrange their schedules to accommodate. We have to fundraise because we're a 501c3 nonprofit. We don't have a lot of money. A lot of you in the room are aware of this dilemma. So through fundraising, we indirectly have the parents. We didn't mean to do this at the time. This is sort of like accidentally developing, where we're getting everybody engaged. Students inherently, just because they want to be there at our school to have the development that we offer. Parents now indirectly through fundraising and driving to school. And then you think from the teacher's perspective, like how did we get the teachers involved? We are a very small staff. We have 40 students. We have 4 academic teachers and 3 ballet teachers. Like our English and history teacher sees students in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. And some parents say like, whoa, isn't that a drawback? And I say, well, if that's a drawback, what is parenting, right? So in a traditional environment, you are the algebra teacher, you are the geometry teacher, you are the algebra 2 teacher. And if you have a student who's in the class who's falling a little bit behind, and you're worried about how you could possibly bring this kid up to speed without losing the speed of the other students, you may not put in the time or find a way to make things work. Why? Because you can just hand that student off to the next teacher who's teaching geometry, who may well do the same thing. And I would never claim that every teacher out there does this, but I do claim that the system that's in place now allows for this to happen. Whereas at our school, when you only have 4 teachers, and you're the teacher who's handing the student off, you're like, well, if I don't bring this kid up to speed, if I don't find a way to bring him up to speed without losing speed with all the other students, well, then I'm the one who has to deal with it the next year, and the next year, right? And the next year. So you sort of have to get engaged. And again, we didn't think that this was happening. And quite frankly, at the time when we were hiring teachers for these positions that we were trying to fill, we thought that it was like a hard sell. Like we're thinking, how are we possibly going to sell this idea to where you have to teach a different class every period of the day, and you have to teach levels that are for 5th graders and levels that are for 12th graders? Like, how is this even possible? Like, how are we going to find someone? Craig said earlier, he's like, he really likes Post-it notes. So do I, because if you look at what Post-it did, or what 3M did when they came up with Post-it notes, they were trying to find the strong, a contact adhesive that was stronger than anything that they had before. And when they concocted whatever they did to make the Post-it note, they found out that it was weaker than anything they'd done before. And what they were trying to do, or what they thought they had, and what they actually had were 2 totally different things. Because we thought we had a tough sell in terms of trying to get a teacher to come to our school. I have talked to countless teachers in the past 2 years about our school, and they're like, oh my God, are you guys hiring? Like, it sounds amazing. Like, the kids are inherently involved, the parents are inherently involved, and now the teachers are inherently involved. It's like this sort of triumvirate of engagement that comes through everybody needing to invest in the sustenance of the school. So, I guess when you sort of look at it all, like we sort of accidentally stumbled upon this model, never trying to do anything revolutionary, and I don't know if we really have, because I think it would be presumptuous of me to say that we are doing something different in the grand landscape of the social organizations that are out there. There are schools all over the place, and while they may seem uncommon, there are many schools that are getting development that's been demonstrated across the board. There are many 501c3 organizations in this community, no less, who are increasing the amount of human capital that's out there at the expense of being overworked and underpaid. And really, when you come down to it, like, I mean, that school in DC that's like us, their tuition's $40,000. Ours is like $8,000 for academics and ballet. We think it's a reasonable number. It still doesn't allow us to sort of make it year in and year out without these sort of like seemingly miraculous financial events. So it's certainly a little bit of a struggle there. And while we may not be rich financially, I will say this: like what we lack in financial capital, we have in human capital. And I'll also say this, you know, again, I'm not going to claim that we have something miraculous, but I guess I will claim this. Like, if all of us are on the lookout, if all of us are attentive to the needs that are present in our society, and all of us are willing to engage in those opportunities that we feel we can have the greatest impact, then we may just accidentally stumble upon solutions that cause a greater benefit than we ever could have imagined. Thank you very much.